delegation of top US officials is expected to visit Mexico soon as negotiations over how to enforce immigration rules at the two countries' shared border continue on Capitol Hill. The upcoming visit to Mexico comes amid controversy over the closure of two rail crossings in Texas earlier this week. Now, US officials have said that the trip would likely take place on the 23rd of December if finalized. Republican and Democratic lawmakers are debating border policy changes as part of a larger conversation over US assistance for Ukraine and Israel. US officials said the personnel needed to be redeployed to handle high numbers of migrants illegally crossing the border. President Joe Biden spoke with Mexican president. He wrote on social media platform X, and I quote him here, "I spoke with President of Mexico regarding efforts to manage migration in the Western Hemisphere. More enforcement actions are urgently needed to reopen key ports of entry across our shared border. Our teams will convene in the coming days to further action." End of quote. The Mexican Employers Association described the closure of rail crossings into Eagle Pass and El Paso, Texas, as a failure of migration policy. Mexican businesses warned that the closings are hampering trade. US Customs and Border Protection said that the decision was made in order to redirect personnel to assist the US Border Patrol with taking migrants into custody. The US government wants Mexico to crack down on migrants riding rail cars to the US border. Now, migrants often ride freight trains through Mexico, hopping off just before entering the United States. For more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Listen in.
As the migrant crisis continues across the U.S.-Mexico border, the White House says that it's dispatching U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to Mexico to meet with the country's president in the coming days to discuss this issue. President Biden spoke with his Mexican counterpart on Thursday, and according to the White House, they talked about how more needs to be done to prevent and control this surge of migrations. The White House says that the men also discussed the long-standing issue of the root causes for migration from Latin America to the United States, something that you may remember Vice President Kamala Harris was in charge of as the border czar and met with leaders of Latin American countries last February. While the White House was asked how far and how well those efforts have been going 1 year on, they said that they're working on it and they understand that more needs to be done. In Washington, Democrats and Republicans continue to blame each other as lawmakers try to agree on a bill not only for border security, but also how to tie it for funding to Ukraine and Israel. This comes at a time when daily illegal crossings across the U.S. southern border are at an all-time high, with thousands of migrants camped in border states waiting for processing. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.